Yat A. Shik Ado, Shidan of Linigi, Shelkahat Silo. Dene Bikaya, Bakaj, the Huisaj. Korode, Hanet Linigi. Ado Ahadan saw that Ado le Halchewit Linigi. E Korode ya Hansa Hodat Ebe Kiltahodilne. Good morning, good afternoon. All you good, wonderful, beautiful Navajo people, relatives, by clan. She yadi bet ahnedone enshle, tratnes zanebashin, kindlichin edashe. Adonde she edashinelle, what are they adone kont ebe, a dehos ledolish. Arobeda kegit agosto. As we're related pursuant to the clans that I just gave. However way that we're related, I wanted to greet all of you with a really good heart, with a really good feeling. And we are right in the middle of Raj, the month of October. As they say, when the new moon came here several weeks ago, we are in the Navajo New Year. We have started the new year. No, we don't go by the Gregorian calendar as says October 1st. We go by Tahitra. And so from that day onwards, we are right in the middle of fall. And what does that mean? Raj, in one sense, also means that there was a dusting of snow that came upon our mountains. Where I live, in Farmington, New Mexico, we saw that the Bensa, the Hesperus Peak, had a dusting of snow. And so we are right in the middle of our fall season. Another indicator of our fall season is the fact that we have Kleje Hetral that has started, what we call Yebiche ceremonies. So the first one was concluded at Shiprock, and there's another one going on at Tuba City as we speak. So those are all indicators of something that is a renewal. And it also is an indicator of solutions, problem solving. Whatever that might have been on your mind, something that was making you not feel good, something that was just not good. We go through this fall season to resolve a lot of these issues, to resolve a lot of problems. We have ceremonies for healing of the mind, and of the soul, and of the spirit. So in the midst of all of that spirit that is here, we bring some issues here before you today, my relatives. And some of these issues that we are bringing today, there's just not issues that arose like yesterday or last week. These are issues that have been lingering within our four sacred mountains for quite some time. And these are issues, surprisingly, a lot of you know about it. A lot of you have a good sense of what some of these issues are, especially those that are in the highest offices of the Navajo Nation government, in the chapter government, and within our communities. And so what we're bringing before you are just specific instances and cases of something that we're bringing before you. Let me start by saying is that, as with anything that there is, you try to resolve it locally. You try to talk things out, as the Navajo Nation Supreme Court has told us numerous times. Talk things out. Try to discuss this. Try to bring your issues and problems to one another and try to talk those things out. And of course, if you can't do that, then there are avenues to resolve some of these things. My relatives, We have done that. We have tried to resolve these. Navajo Nation Council, members of the Navajo Nation Council, here is a problem. Here is an issue. There is a problem here within our Navajo Nation government. There is a problem with our laws. There are problems with our policies and procedures. There are problems with how we do things here. Can you do something about it? Can you create some legislation to change some of these laws, to amend some of these laws? Because at the Hogan level over here, at the private level over here, it is enormously burdening. It's affecting us in a very negative way. A very negative way. Dipe has anidan lenit ashchon de hey shahot a osle khadet a da kwedanal so that ya o here dit a osle adot opa yata ki. All we have gotten up to now is just a bunch of grandstanding on the council floor. A bunch of grandstanding in oversight committee meetings. That's all we got. At then. Oba yatkit, oba yatkit, ba yatkit. Honaso da zesko, ba yatkit zneha. Ado sanatla, ba yana natkit, ba yana natkit. Ya, the la odje. Zinzentle. That's what we got. In the executive branch, starting with the office of the president and the vice president, and all of the divisions and the various departments that there are, there's a problem here. There's something that's not right here. And what do we get? Absolutely nothing. The only thing that we got thus far is they blessed us with the Navajo Nation Department of Justice. That's what they gave to us. They have lawyers there, contracted lawyers all the way to Washington, D.C., spending thousands of dollars opposing us. And here we are. All we did was, there's a problem here. There's a mistake here. There's something that is not done right here, which is affecting the Navajo people over here. That's what we got. So now, we're at a point now, where do we go? We've tried to tell everybody, say, hey relatives, we got a problem here. Nothing. Absolutely nothing today. So we have one more place of salvation. One more entity here that we're trying to feel like they could resolve something. The legislative branch didn't do it. The executive branch didn't do it. But now we have the judicial branch. So that maybe we have a slimmer of hope. Just an ounce, a drop of hope we still have left in our government. That maybe some of these things can be resolved by our judicial branch. Now, the caveat here is this. Ever since we tried to work with the legislative branch, since we tried to work with the executive branch, and the way that they brought out their ugliness, their unwillingness, they are the most stubborn people in the world. We are a little distrustful of our government now. And I'll give you one of the main reasons why we feel like that today. Ladies and gentlemen, my relatives, I will say this today confidently. There is one agency that was created by Title II within our Navajo Nation government. And it's called the Navajo Nation Department of Justice. This entity was created to be the law enforcement agency for the Navajo people. They were created to represent the Navajo people. They were created to ensure that the laws of the Navajo Nation were executed properly and were complied with. They are the nation's law enforcers. But today, I am saddened, I am disappointed to say that there is complete corruption in the halls of the Navajo Nation Department of Justice. It's corrupted. It is absolutely corrupted. Tiga dit ahit soshje aje ti kwege e kwen khanda al kido ni hikiyata al kido na khadan chento le dot e da di jid a ol ya o ni hikije nal nish a ol ya o ishit o khunai dit ahone da yini lo da de nes I dat ena e kweben da atlodo da bioch ido and da e ahat ashi at khalagot at hitza ahago hat ishi ya na khana o ya ye dan le abe allah de hot ak khaz shikeno lenigi the Navajo Nation Department of Justice we cannot trust no more. Part of the problem there is the fact that somewhere down the line here, somebody, some council, some legislative body, executive body, thought of the fact or made it like, Navajo Nation Department of Justice, you are in charge of the Navajo Nation government now. Our council delegates listen to attorneys at Navajo Nation Department of Justice. You people did not vote for those attorneys at the Navajo Nation Department of Justice. Heck no. You did not choose them as your leaders. But guess what? They're being allowed to make those important decisions. And this is how it operates today. If a Navajo Nation Department of Justice attorney does not get his or her own way, they get mad. They start manipulating. They start lying. Yes, believe it or not, Department of Justice attorneys are liars. They lie, completely violating the Navajo Nation Bar Association's rules of professional responsibility. Not only do they do that, they are conflicted out through previous cases, through marriage, and through their interest in other businesses and other things that they have no disclosures on. So they manipulate the government. They manipulate elected officials. They manipulate documents. They do all of these things unchecked today because they've built a regime so influential that it actually influences the Navajo Nation government today. This is a very serious problem today. Today, this is a serious problem. So with that distrust, we still put some things together to file and to see through this legal process. And we did. After we have gone through all of this, we had no other choice but to file a lawsuit. The first lawsuit we filed is within the Navajo Nation District Court in the Judicial District of Woodrock, Arizona. Our clients, Clearwater Construction Partners Incorporated and the Navajo Partnership for Housing Incorporated. They are our clients. They are Navajo-owned, Navajo Business Opportunity Act, Priority 1 and Priority 2 entities that are registered. These are our own. These are our own Navajo people that are there. And we are suing the Navajo Nation Division of Children and Family Services, Thomas Cody being the division director. We have filed a lawsuit. And what is this lawsuit all about? Let me give you a quick summary. When the ARPA funding was generated, there was this desire, as it was happening all across the country, for mortgage assistance. Those individuals that had mortgages, that they could be assisted in one way or another, because of just the way that the COVID was. It influenced, it affected a lot of things. So this money was set aside for that. So at the time, that was the initiative that was put forth on the table. But the Navajo Nation had to apply for the mortgage assistance program through the ARPA funding. Nobody had any idea how to do it. So they called upon our clients, Clearwater Construction Partners and Navajo Partnership for Housing, for data, for expertise, for everything that was needed to generate the proposal. The proposal was written and it was awarded. It was awarded a lot of money. When it was awarded, the question of who was going to execute the program, who was going to run the program, who was going to oversee the program. At the time, another entity was created called the Native American Community Capital. They took people from other places and created this company right almost in a day. And they gave administration of this program to this new entity that was created. Remember now, this new entity was very new. They had no experience. They were not qualified. They were not even licensed to carry out any of these mortgage provisions and this funding provisions as required by the federal government. None whatsoever. And they started running with this. And it's been several years now. And guess what? If some of you were listening to the Nabikiat oversight meeting several weeks ago when Thomas Cody and his division came before the Navajo Nation Council, they had nothing to show for it. About the only thing that could be said that they had to show for it is any expenditures out of that 50 plus million that they cut, they were just for salaries. The president of the Navajo Nation made this big old paparazzi press event to say that we are going to help about 900 people. Not one has come forth and say, yes, I got this from here. And if they did, they had to wait like years and months with all sorts of stipulations. That's what's on the table here. And so our lawsuit, what it says is the fact that there was never a competitive bidding that took place. This became federal funds, became Navajo Nation funds. There was no competitive bidding as required by the Navajo Nation law. What should have happened was that this should have been put on the table for competitive bidding, to open it up to other Navajo vendors, to open up to other people. What it would have ensured was that real, true entities that have experience would have applied. Maybe even at a lower cost. And if you hire somebody that has some of those qualifications, guess what happens? Progress. Something actually happens. The program's implemented in so many ways. That did not happen. And so there was no competitive bidding. None whatsoever. This was sole sourced to Native American community capital. Sole sourced. Remember, the Navajo Nation has a definition and the reason and justification of why something would be sole sourced. This entity fell way below that. Now, let's go back to the Nabik Committee before the Navajo Nation Council. Sometimes it's interesting how when you tell all of you people out there and relatives and whatnot, there's always one in the crowd that says, oh no, they just made it up. They just made it up. They don't know what they're talking about. They just kind of made it. Maybe it was AI or... I challenge you. Go to that Nabik Committee where Thomas Cody was brought before the council. And he was outright asked. It was a question that was asked of him. And why was this thing sole sourced? Why was it sole sourced? And guess what his answer was? His answer was, nobody else could do what we wanted the Native American community capital could do. Nobody. We couldn't find anybody that could do the job. Really? Really? Remember, there is an outfit here which are our clients, Clearwater Construction Partners and Navajo Partnership Housing. They gave the data to you. They basically wrote the whole proposal for you. And there was nobody. There were even instances where after Native American Community Capital started, they tried to take employees of our clients to try to help them over here. And you couldn't find anybody to do it? So, not only is there a violation of Navajo law in this whole scenario, but you need to begin to start formulating the ultimate question here. What incentives are there for the president of the Navajo Nation, his office, his chief of staff, former chiefs of staff, his executive office, to push this? What incentives are there? Start asking yourself that question, because you will see a pattern. Why are you pushing this? Why did you totally violate Navajo procurement laws so that you could sole source an unqualified entity? Ask yourself that question. We did in our lawsuit. We are bringing that question before the Navajo Nation Court. We are bringing that issue before the Navajo Nation Court. So it's not just a violation of Navajo procurement laws, but why was it violated? There was a reason. And we intend to get to the bottom of those reasons through the processes and the rules that we were given to get that information. I'll give you one example. Now that the lawsuit is filed, we get to subpoena such information. By law, we are going to ask the judge, issue me an order. I want this information. I want this information. By law, I can bring in Native American community capital personnel in a deposition with a court reporter sitting there in camera. That's what a lawsuit does. And we had no choice but to file it in either to get to the bottom of all of this. That's what this lawsuit is about, my relatives. Native American community capital will yell. Ho one beta holonegi nagekita trata ad shin hikela ho one da yisnil ad bebe kai that the yo was kat ahoda Ahawan Bikani Iliedo, Howan Bakade, the Bahasht Edo with Nilo, Twin Chonchidas, Linda, Epe Bakada, the Crab, Baby, Babed, that on this what don't need, Beso Bunny, Nilada. John Dale Ado Yaeta Hossani, Ado Yeta Spai, Ado Bespeta Hossani, Okay, Hita Yis Kilo, Kati Quato Lit, Tatini, John Day in Nomination President, O Edo Lit. Ajapeni in that list, let me ask me, but I was little base about it. Jota Dini, a could egg, or Z, be his army a could argo, do tanna, be his army and shade or the schneider, be his army and do tanna, a could argo, a gileo. Anna benazla, has showed the nebe bestahosne. Khashige at the Hosanigido Hashi the Yichi the quite a penity, not so Sunday or so the penity, a cut out a day to leave. Johot a epe his ani a con de at ten out of Eliada. At ten. A co de quag a dinat ani it out, than Lenin Nabate kit versions and Nabate kit show hey. The question never caught is what did. Khana la e peso shotaz in Khan zahoy wasti dek at kuina khashi ko de peso na khani nelo adan o kunet e bikenda ajnish a kodi ade ede bikeda inish do jon gota de nebe bekait o wasn la de kidat khaden hishin rat chun da shit o yikedat le phoenix do albuquerque dot a conflagstaff gala farmington eti kwegi ad kit khat da bagan et one da yiso be bekait that yo whatla aten o khayu e dofna not so I applied, I submitted my application. I don't know what happened to it. Nobody called me back. Those are some of the issues. Ekot ago or ziki ek at gold te guna dinal so ya hatasil sos. Deba na hodot in kwebe has anik at hit kwebe has ani to be eliata. Di call ye do di edat khashala. Anap is that nabanazla ba with the note in. Radit ahik eho. Gold te guna di kwebe has ani be all in ligi kwetchon epidil e all ye lawsuit. Chik eno flenigi. Dik adekot ago epidato siye. So this is the lawsuit that is pending with the Navajo Nation District Court in Window Rock, Arizona. We wanted to give you an insight of what is happening here. We wanted to be accountable to you because this is your money, my relatives. This is happening within your government by your leaders that you elected. They took an oath and said, yes, I will abide by the Navajo Nation laws. We have to bring this. We have no other choice. Ehut ega. We also filed another lawsuit. This time, it is with the Office of Hearing and Appeals of the Navajo Nation. This one, our client again, Clearwater Construction Partners, who's a petitioner, our client, and we are suing the Navajo Nation Division of Community Development. Candace Yazzie, the executive director, unconfirmed by the Navajo Nation Council, who was appointed by the Navajo Nation president. What is this lawsuit about? This lawsuit about is all the popular word today, or words. Zinni homes. Zinni homes. It's almost as popular as saying wah. So it has become popular for a particular reason, my relatives, because it is probably the most prominent and most publicized acts of corruption that there is to date. The Navajo Nation, through the Division of Community Development, got money through the ARPA project. And they created a fund over here for housing called CHID, Community Housing Infrastructure and Development Fund. They put a lot of money in there to build homes for you, the Navajo people. To try to build a home for you. To put something that is better than what you're living in. What are the conditions? We have people that live in shacks today. We have people that live in tarps erected with a stove made out of a automobile rim. That's how they're living today. We have 4 families living in a room about this size, which is very small. We have families going from relatives' homes to relatives' homes because they're homeless. That's the situation we're in. Believe it or not, in this 2025 era, we have Navajo people that live like that. We have Navajo people who have houses, yes, their roofs are all gone, so they have plastic over it. They have walls with big holes, so they have cardboard that they get from the local stores, which once were carried where lettuce or apples were, there were cardboard boxes for that. They get those. That's how they're living. This money was to begin to, they might not build every home for every need there, but they were going to try to make an impact to try to build homes. It may not be mansions, but at least it's a decent home where it's going to be warm in the winter and cool in the summer, and it's going to last at least 20 plus years. That's what this funding was for. And so the Navajo Nation said, okay, all you contractors, let's do something here. So by the process of issuing work orders to utilize those monies so that they could build homes, they have a work order system. The first work order went out, and the contractors that were there were asked, bring in a price for a manufactured home, which is, as we call it, mobile homes. So these vendors, they put their prices on the table, which is according to law. And they did. And the winning bid, the winning proposal was hovering around $155,000 average. Boom. They're going to manufacture these houses. At that time, an outfit called IDSA brought in a proposal. IDSA is a Navajo-owned architecture and design company. And they are the front company for Zinni Homes. Because if Zinni Homes brought in a proposal, they're non-Navajos, so they were going to lose out. So who did they get? Hey, Tamara Piquet, Hakwa. Let's make a deal here. We'll prop you up. And we'll say that you're the company. Remember now, the law specifically requires these contractors to possess a legitimate, valid, updated general contractor's license. It's required, not only by the Navajo Nation, but the federal government. Don't lose sight of the fact that these are federal dollars. Remember that. These are federal dollars. They require that. So, the proposals went in. Normally, if I was unlicensed and if I didn't have a general contractor's license and I put in a proposal, and when all the proposals are on the table, they're going to look at it and say, you're out. You don't have a license. You don't even get to be part of this. But what happened? Her proposal was on the table. And her proposal was a proposal to build a zinny square matchbox home that's made out of metal, and I often call it the Spam can. Looks like a Spam can. And they wanted about $550,000 for one Spam can. $550,000, over $500,000 for one Spam can. That's where Work Order 1 started. Gladly, there were some people that had some sense at DCD at the time, apparently. They said, no, that's too much. Besides, you don't even have a contractor's license. So, that was done. Work Order 2 was issued again. Same thing. Proposals were put on the table. Oh, this time, IDSA said, oh, we're going to reduce our price. We're going to go to about around $460,000. Boom! About $70,000 discount. I don't know if they took out the doorknobs or maybe manual ways to open the windows. Who knows? And the same thing. That's too much. But at the time, the office of the president began to push this proposal. They were at DCD almost every day. They were breathing down the necks of the project managers. They were saying, this is the one, you got to do this. And they said, nope, we can't do this. This is crazy. We could have about 3 manufactured homes for the price of one of these Spam cans. Everything is price driven. So the whole intent was to build as many homes for as many Navajos that the ARPA funds could accommodate. That's the whole idea. But no. The whole idea over here was to try to sell a $500,000 home, apparently. That died. But rather than give a proposal, a contract to a low bidder or a low price vendor, what does the office of the president do? They terminated Work Order number 2. So it's one of those deals of we can't have it, then nobody can attitude, apparently. So that went out the window. Work Order 3 came around again. That was issued. Same thing, pricing came again. Again, the winning price was $155,000 around average for manufactured homes again. This time, IDSA, the architects, want to be general contractors. They brought in a price of about the low 400,000s this time. Yeah, they lowered it again, maybe. They took out the flusher in the toilet. Who knows? To get to that price. And still yet, the project managers at DCD said, nope, that's still too much. So they threw it out again. Besides, you still don't have a contractor's license. Now, mind you, why is IDSA continuing to give and present a proposal, even though she did not have a contractor's license. Somebody's allowing this over here. Again, there was pressure from the office of the president again. It didn't happen. So finally, about October, November last year, Work Order 4 was issued. This time around, the office of the president, Patrick Sandoval, Chris Beecher, and all of the folks over there brought it over. This is going to be the contract you're going to give DCD. No and ifs or buts about it. You're going to sole source this. You're going to sole source this. You're not going to afford anybody else an opportunity to present a price. This is going to be sole sourced. And we gave you a really good discount now. $325,000. There's strong arming. There's bullying. Everything that you could imagine is put on the table. The contract was put on the table for that price for 180 Zinni homes, 180 spam cans. And it didn't even have the little thing that used to be on spam cans where you put it on here and you kind of tear it around. It didn't even have that. And that's why it was $325,000. And boom, there was nobody at DCD to sign the contract in December. Arvin Mitchell, who's now a council delegate, used to be the division director. There was a vacancy in the council seat that he now occupies. There was an election. He won. He left. The division director was vacant. There was nobody to sign it because the law required that the contract be signed by DCD, director. Guess what? The guy with the second funky hat comes across, say, "Hey, I'm Chris Beecher. I'm the man. I'm the deal here. I'll sign it." He signs the contract. That's like having a multi-million-dollar contract and having maybe one of the Navajo Transit bus drivers come over there and sign it. It's about equal to that. There's no force of law. It's invalid. He can't sign it. But yet he did. The contract makes its way over to the Department of Justice. Maybe it was just that day. I don't know. Maybe it was just that day somebody was having good coffee or something and woke up and said, "What the heck? This is not right. Chris Beecher, you are not the DCD director. Chris Beecher, we can't tell whether you're still over the president's office as the deputy chief of staff or you want to be the wannabe attorney general at the time. But you can't sign it." So they rejected it back to DCD. Right before Christmas in 2024, when there was a vacancy, here comes Mr. Patrick Sandoval. Remember Mr. Patrick Sandoval? He hires some innocent poor lady to be the acting DC director for about 3 or 4 days. Puts her in there. You got all the power and authorities. You're the acting director now. By the way, your first order of business, here's the contract. Sign it. And she did. If that isn't signage under duress, I don't know what is. Signs it, they take the contract, and they run it back to DOJ, and DOJ says, Yeah, okay, sure. This is where examples of corruption is in DOJ, my relatives. Nobody had the darn sense to investigate this whole process, to do due diligence on all of this. Who was the Attorney General at the time? Ethel Branch. Who was the one that was reviewing these contracts at the time? Jennifer Bezlowski. And numerous other attorneys were on this. Well, it looks good to me. We'll shoot it over to Finance, Controller's Office. We'll sign off on it. And they did. In January, $24 million was paid up front. $24 million given to Zinni Homes, IDSA. And then the project's supposed to have started from there. 25, we're going along. No spam can. There's a facility in Page that's supposed to be building these spam cans. Done. Zero. Nothing. It even got to the point of where, in a contractual situation in construction, those of you that know, when there's a contract and then there's construction that begins, there's usually monthly reports, bi-weekly reports, and other reports on a weekly basis on the progress of the project. There are also reports called list of values that are there, or schedule of values. They are the ones that break down the cost and what is all being expended along the way. Guess what happened? DCD meetings there. Tamara Brigade was asked, where are your schedule of values? I don't have it. I don't even ask me for schedule of values. Don't even ask me for the progress of the project, because I only report directly to the president and Patrick Sandoval and Chris Beecher. That's it. You can be the project managers over here. You could be all of these, but I don't have to answer to you. I answer only to the president. So this was going on. People were in the dark. Nobody knew where everything was, how much was being expended. At then, zero. And so that's basically where this whole thing arose from. Now, how is that related to my client? How is that related to this lawsuit that's here? Number one, the procurement law again was violated. This was never put on the table for other contractors, especially Navajo-owned contractors, to bid on this 180 homes. To bid on it. It didn't happen. It was sole source work order number 4. Sole source. To an unqualified architecture firm, doesn't have a general contractor's license, but was only the cigar store Indian for Zinni Homes. Now, we could talk about Zinni Homes all day. We can talk about how they basically just created the company probably within the last year or two and everything else. But I'm not going to waste your time on that. This was wrong. Completely wrong. It's wrong to be the cigar store Indian for a non-Navajo owned company. It's wrong. The law does not permit that. Especially when you have other qualified Navajo owned contractors. So we made a protest to the Navajo Nation Division of Economic Development. Navajo Nation Business Regulatory Office, the agency that regulates, enforces the Navajo Business Opportunity Act. Here it is. Here are all the numbers, all the paperwork. Here, there's a wrong here. We waited, we waited, we waited, and we waited. We never got a response. We never got a response. No investigation, no inquiry, nothing. At then. And so we had no choice. The law provides us the next level. So we filed a lawsuit before the Office of Hearing and Appeals now. The lawsuit has been submitted, and that's what's before the Office of Hearing and Appeals. And so, now the pattern again. Why is it that unqualified Navajo, supposedly Navajo-owned companies that have no clue in what they're doing, they were basically just created within the last 24 to 36 months and personally driven by the president of the Navajo Nation, why is it that there's a slew of that? There's a pattern of that. Now you have to ask, what's the incentive? What is the incentive behind all of this? There has to be an incentive. And guess what? We have the legal means now to ask those questions of those individuals that are at the President's office, the Department of Justice, and other agencies that were involved in this deal that happened. We now have that capacity to do that. So that's what this lawsuit is about. But think about it this way, my relatives. Remember, $24 million was given right up front to build 180 homes. So I think it was my brother Sean McCabe, by the way, by law, in my estimation, in my conclusion, he's still the controller of the Navajo Nation. In May, said, hey, wait a minute, time out. I said, wait. Time out. Something's going on here. Where are all those homes? We have none that has been created or erected anywhere. Where are the schedule of values? How much money has been expended? And the reports I'm getting is that I don't even know what you're spending money on. Zinni Homes and IDSA. Where's everything? And he amassed the powers to be. Hey, let's have a meeting here. By the way, we have an external investigation that took place that we discovered that Zinni Homes is an illegitimate company under the Security and Exchange Commission of the United States government. What are we doing here? And finally, the end result was in August. The 180 homes that Zinni Homes was supposed to build was revoked. They claim that 18 homes were ready to be erected. I only see one over at the Harrigan Estates over there by St. Michael's. There's only one that I know of. I don't know what happened to the 17 homes. The one that's in St. Michael's is supposed to be a prototype. But guess what? They charged the nation for that too. And so, let's do some math here. Let's do some math here. 24 million. You have 18 homes at $325,000 a home. 18 by 325,000, you're talking about 5.8 million. 325,000 is in that contract that the Navajo Nation signed with Zinni Homes and IDSA. So, okay, you have 18 homes. We'll give you the 5.8 million. We'll pay for all of that. Okay, sure, fine. So how much is that remaining? About 18 million is still remaining. Now the question is, if you only built 18, then you have 18 million left. Where is the $18 million? Where is it? What did you do with it? If you don't have it, then just write us a check payable to the Navajo Nation. Bring it over here. Might even invite Boo Nygren's office to take some pictures with it too. Say, hey, we got $18 million back. But then, People have been asking. The Navajo Nation Council has been asking. The Budget and Finance Committee has been asking. Navajo Nation Council RDC has been asking. Nabik has been asking. Where is the money? But even more serious is the fact that you have Navajo Nation Department of Justice. Remember them? They are empowered to issue to do certain legal procedures to recoup money like that, to file lawsuits, and everything that they're empowered to do on behalf of the Navajo people. None. Zero. Nobody's asking for this money. Us Navajo people, if we don't even pay maybe for the water over at the chapter house so that we could haul water for our sheep, and if we have like a long bill, guess what? Navajo Nation Department of Justice attorneys have all the time in the world to issue us. But you have $18 million that you have unaccounted for over here. You don't know what happened to it. But nobody is doing anything about it. Then, zero. What's even worse now is that IDSA, remember now, the non-general contracting outfit, is now billing the Navajo Nation for the 18, and now the billing is per unit now. It's going over $1 million. They want to use the whole $24 million for 18 homes, and you're talking about $1.2 million apiece for a spam can. Wow. We had no other choice but to file this lawsuit so that we could bring that to the table, so that in a legal proceeding we can ask these questions and they cannot tell us no. Yeah, of course they're going to do that. They probably already have, by knowledge, Charlie Galbraith in Washington, D.C. already on contract. Say, hey, they're going to sue. We're sued here. Okay, go ahead. Watch. I'll show you that pleading if he files it. He's done this, and that. How much money has Jenner and Block made off of the Navajo Nation's stupidity? I'm sorry to say. How much money has been made off of the Navajo Nation's corruptive practices? It's the government. So this is where we're at with this. And so, but yes, we get to subpoena documents now. We get to subpoena information. We get to bring people in to depose them and ask him questions on record. And yeah, it's probably going to be a fight. We know that. But somebody had to do it. It had to be done. They gave us no other alternatives. Because who at the end of the day is it hurting? 180 homes could have been built at a lesser price. But we have 180 families who needed the home, who do not have a home today. That's the real issue here. It's for these people over here, over here. Some of them, they're even praying, hey, I want a home. There's a lot of money that was given to the Navajo people. $2 billion. I don't even know how much money that is. But maybe somewhere I could be blessed with a home. I raised several kids in a shack over here. But nevertheless, I'm not going to give up. That's what's going on. Now think about it. Just for contemplation and pondering and maybe conversation at the sweat or drinking coffee or mutton stew at Tuba City Fair this weekend. So if that's the case, why do we have this controversy now? Why was Sean McCabe fired? Because he refused to turn on a P card so that the owner of the P card could go to the Arizona State Fair and to the Indian National Finals Rodeo and Lord knows what other travels. That's what we have going here. We're at a point in this government where there's an impasse. Over $1.5 million for travel. If I were to explain this to an elderly today, this is what they will say to you. To me. If I tell it to my grandma or my grandpa, I say, hey, your fearless leader is $1.5 million. Ja, na, chonde, but in that nets, aye, nicht. Quagga Bezan, that toy in the Scalach, are they young Dutch, are they shot and Sunday, Koya Equip best out than out of gate, toy Nash Kashida. Then they'll probably look at me like, on the dick, yes. Yada where at then lay, I then had a charge the la. Yada pan had jittle, had a hashich at the shots and so the heads is data. Yada pan had then lay. Don't call the joe that Ochis than G yet, Alec at the cheat or day now. A G yet the quet, a patchy yet, the quet she's a bungee yet. Other because she topa yok yesterday, all that they don't need she. And even better yet, they'll probably come up with an idea and say, don't do joch, that as the compes shot, niche no that go nit catch you got. And there's $1 the happy that it's at home in so cause of state fair that was the dollar was. That's what they will say. But yet, here we are. You have all this that is happening. You have this impasse. You have matters in court now. The executive branch and the legislative branch are locked in. Has twee son ik dan de nesha. Na sa hat khali, had net akudan de nesha khajel so yeske. Sho he dil bando khe. Al chun yes no so hok enan gide nele ots kha khale. Joye. Who would say that today? Where are all those people today? At then. Maybe they're just scared, especially the elected leaders. Where are they? When you look at the council chambers, people are just like this. And then they rant and rave about nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not one legislation has been submitted to take care of this problem. To exercise, they can't even figure out exactly what powers and authorities that they have that was given to them in Title II. It's that bad. Oder 10,000 Church. Hat ich it open das dich gis. Kwe nahot I has leo. That's what we have today. But as it pertains to our client, we file and working with the law that was given to us. Remember now, we have not turned into a banana republic yet. We bring this lawsuit to the judicial branch. Who was created to resolve these issues? Who was created to make sure that the law is complied with? Our last hope, that's where our last hope is. We pray every day, we hope every day that the corruption did not reach the judicial branch. That's my prayer. I hope that corruption has not reached the judicial branch, because it's in the legislative branch, it's in the executive branch, it's in the halls of Navajo Nation Department of Justice. I'm hoping that our judges could think about this and consider these pursuant to law. Pursuant to law. We still live by laws. And so who is going to do it? I applaud my clients. And there's another lawsuit that's coming. Pay your bills, the invoices. After we have brought this to you over the video, unfortunately we had to tell you over the video. And by the way, this is merely so that my clients could get paid, have a fair shot at something. That's what this is all about. It's not for me. People are either, oh yeah, he's just doing this and that because no, it's not. It is absolutely not. Because I look at my clients here, this is their bread and butter. This money is what they use to raise their children. And some of the bigger clients, like in this case, Clearwater, they have Navajo workers, cement workers, framers. They have concrete people, plumbers and electricians. They're general contractors. Navajo people work for them. Those Navajo workers have families. They want a fair shot. They want this money to stay here on the nation, not be given to some outfit out there. By the way, we have pictures of that Zinni home prototype that was erected in St. Michael's. Guess who erected them? Nakes, not Navajos. They built that whole thing. I didn't see one Navajo soul there. But that's what we're doing. That's who we're doing it for. And it's important that people understand that. For too long, it has been under the cover. For too long, we don't want to talk about that. No, we don't want to talk about other people, my elected leaders' dirty laundry. Well, we might as well talk about dirty laundry. One of our leaders never changes his clothes. So we might as well talk about dirty laundry, yes. And so here we are. Pay your bills. We've done that. We've done told the council, we've done told the executive branch, we've done told the Department of Justice. The controller is ready to pay out these bills. He even went on the air during a council and said, hey, bring me your invoices. I will pay them. To do right, to make things right. This is not right that we owe you this money for the work you did. And guess who the impediments are? The obstructionists. The almighty Navajo Nation Department of Justice. Navajo Nation Department of Justice. My God. So that we have no other choice now. We have to file that lawsuit. And that lawsuit will be forthcoming in the next 5 days. That will be filed. And it's going to be in court. And it's going to compel the Navajo Nation government, pay your bills. It's that simple. Pay your bills. It's that simple. And so we wanted to bring these two lawsuits and an impending lawsuit to your attention because we want you to know what's going on. We want you to understand some of these processes. We want you to know that all of these things, this is what's happening within your government, within your communities. This is how your own people are being treated. We want you to know that. Because nobody's going to tell you that. Unfortunately, nobody's going to tell you. There's no accountability. There's no transparency. There's a lot of hush, hush. Shh, there's too much of that. How long are we going to be that? How long are we going to continue to do? This didn't happen last year. This didn't happen with this administration. It's been an ongoing thing. Nobody just didn't take the time to shake the tree now. But that's what we're doing. Because we're sick of it. We're tired of it. I'm tired of seeing people not have a good meal to eat at the end of the day. I'm tired of seeing students, the only meal that they get is over at the school during lunchtime. I'm tired of
looking at dormitories being full because they have no homes. That's the only home that they know, these students. It's got to stop. And so, you have to think about this, my relatives. We are better than this. We've persevered generations and generations. We survived the long walk. We're still here. We have ceremonies going here. We have all of this yet. But look at this. We're better than this. And yes, it is okay to tell your leaders, to tell your government, it's okay to say that. It's okay to say, it's okay to tell the president, the council delegates, the division directors, the chapter officials, the grazing official, what you're doing is wrong. It's okay to say that. And that's what these lawsuits are all about. So, we wanted to be accountable to you and transparent with you and give you facts. These are all factual. They're not jinne, they're not dots, they're not any of that. And a lot of these are public information. You can go to the court and you can ask for a copy of this. They'll give it to you. It's public information. None of the things that I've put before you are jinne or was made up or whatever. In my business, we don't make things up because it's against the rules. This is all true. And even better yet, I'll leave you with this. There are FBI investigations going on. There are U.S. Marshal investigations going on. There are Security and Exchange Commission investigations going on. There are numerous there's a special prosecuting team right now that's investigating. There's other bodies of investigations going on. I've spent hours and hours with my clients in those interviews. And guess what? They have no time for non-factual things. These are facts. These are evidence with documents. These are evidence with testimonies. So, the quicker you get off that horse that says, he's just talking against the president, he's just this and that. The quicker you get off the horse that you're on, maybe you will be less embarrassed when everything falls out of the tree. That would be my advice to you.
I believe that there are some questions that we've afforded to the press, and I believe that they're preferring, we gave them the choice either to send us privately their questions and we will respond to that accordingly, and so that's the process that we're doing today. Okay, so all of the press questions are going to be submitted to my office, and we will respond accordingly. Jokia, ado nijgodo dan hidona, tibisiri fair, na kaiban hidada hidil sel ad. Maybe I'll see at over at the carnival or something. I'm kind of craving some cotton candy right now, and some funnel cake, and a good mutton stew with some fry bread, and I'll get my supply peaky over there as well. Have a good day. Take care of yourselves. Love one another. Look after one another. Make sure you see about your grandmas and your grandpas. The weather's getting cold. Make sure there's plenty of wood. Make sure there's plenty of bags of pellets there. Make sure you look after them. Look after one another.